He cheated on me with my sister. I lost them. Both the same day. I found a message on his phone at 11 p.m. It was from my sister. I recognize the way she writes because she texts me the same way. Except this message wasn't for me. My name is Clara, and this is the story of the night I lost everything I had ever called home. Part 1. My sister. I need to tell you about Mia before I tell you anything else, because Mia is not a villain in my story. That is the hardest part. That is the part I have spent the most time trying to understand. Mia is 3 years older than me. Growing up, she was everything I wanted to be. Confident in a way I never was. Funny in a room full of people. The kind of person who walks into a party and immediately makes it better just by being there. We were not always close. As children, we fought the way sisters fight, over clothes, over the bathroom, over whose turn it was to sit in the front seat. But somewhere in our late teens, something shifted and we became genuinely close. The kind of close that feels like luck, like you won something you didn't earn. She was the first person I called when something good happened. She was the first person I called when something fell apart. She knew things about me that nobody else knew. Fears I had never said out loud. Memories I had never written down. The version of myself I only showed to people I trusted completely. She was my sister. She was my best friend. She was, for most of my adult life, the person I felt safest with in the world. I want you to hold that while I tell you the rest. Part 2. I met Jake at 23 at a work conference that I had not wanted to attend. I was tired and slightly underdressed and standing near the back of a room full of people I didn't know when he appeared beside me with 2 glasses of water and said, "You look like someone who would rather be anywhere else." "I would rather be literally anywhere else," I said. He laughed. We talked for the rest of the evening. He drove me back to my hotel and asked for my number at the door. And I gave it to him without hesitating, which was unusual for me. Jake was warm and easy to be around. Not flashy, not performing, just genuinely himself in a way that made you want to be around him. He made me feel calm. That was the thing I noticed first and kept noticing, that when I was with Jake, the noise in my head went quiet. I introduced him to Mia about 2 months in. They got along immediately. Of course they did. Jake got along with everyone, and Mia could talk to anyone. I remember watching them laugh at something together across my kitchen and feeling something warm and full in my chest. The people I loved most, getting along. What could be better than that? I held on to that memory for a long time after everything fell apart, not with warmth anymore, with something else entirely. Part 3. The life we built. Jake and I were together for 4 years before the night I found the message. 4 years of building something that felt, from the inside, completely solid. We moved in together after 2 years, a small apartment with a balcony we never used enough, and a kitchen that was slightly too small and a bedroom with a window that let in too much light in the morning. I loved every impractical inch of it. We talked about the future the way people do when they believe in it, where we might live eventually, whether we wanted children, what we imagined our life looking like in 10 years. These conversations felt easy and natural and entirely real. Mia came over often. She and Jake had developed their own friendship by this point. They had similar taste in films, both loved cooking, both had the same loud, comfortable laugh. Sometimes when I was working late, she would come over and the 2 of them would have dinner ready when I got home. I thought that was the luckiest thing in the world. I want you to understand how completely I trusted both of them, separately and together. There was not a single moment in 4 years where I felt anything other than safe. That is not stupidity. That is what it looks like when 2 people are very careful and very deliberate about what they show you. Part 4. The night of the message. It was a Tuesday in October. Jake had fallen asleep early. He had a long week and had been exhausted for days. I was still awake reading when his phone lit up on the nightstand beside him. I was not snooping. I want to be very clear about that. I glanced at the screen the way you glance at anything that lights up near you. Reflex. Nothing more. The message was from Mia. I recognized her name, obviously. I also recognized before I had consciously processed anything that the message was not the kind of message you send to your sister's boyfriend. 8 words. That is all it was. 8 words that I will not repeat here because some things do not need to be repeated. but those 8 words contained an intimacy, a specific, private, unmistakable intimacy that told me everything I needed to know before my brain had even finished reading them. I put my book down. I turned off my bedside lamp. I lay in the dark beside the man I had spent 4 years building a life with, and I stared at the ceiling and felt the world I knew rearrange itself into something I did not recognize. Jake slept beside me the entire night. I did not sleep at all. I lay completely still until the room went gray with morning light, and then I got up and made coffee and sat at the kitchen table alone and thought about what I was going to do next. Part 5, what I did not do. I did not confront him that morning. I know that surprises people when I tell them. They expect rage. They expect the dramatic moment of accusation and tears and things said that cannot be unsaid. But I was not ready for that yet. I needed to know more before I blew apart the only life I had. I needed to know how long. I needed to know how serious. I needed to know whether what I had seen was the beginning of something or the middle of something that had been going on for a very long time while I was looking the other way. So I waited. I watched. I became, over the following 2 weeks, a person I had never been before, quiet and careful, and paying attention to everything. I noticed things I had explained away before. The way Jake sometimes angled his phone slightly when Mia texted in front of me. The way Mia occasionally went quiet when Jake and I were affectionate with each other. A stillness that I had read as tiredness or distraction, but now read differently entirely. Small moments that had meant nothing in isolation, and meant everything together. I went through his phone one night when he was in the shower. I'm not proud of that, but I needed the truth more than I needed to be the kind of person who didn't look. What I found was worse than I had prepared myself for, not because of the content of the messages, though that was bad enough, but because of the dates. The earliest message I could find was from 14 months ago. 14 months. I had to sit down on the bathroom floor and breathe slowly for several minutes before I could stand up again. 14 months. I tried to map that against my memory. What had I been doing 14 months ago? What had we done together? What had I believed was real? All of it. I had believed all of it was real. Part 6. Mia. I called Mia 3 days after finding the messages. Not to confront her. I was not ready for that either. I called her because I needed to hear her voice. I needed to see if I could hear it in her. Some change, some difference, some sign of what she was carrying. She picked up on the second ring, warm and ordinary, the way she always answered my calls. "Hey you," she said. "What are you up to?" "Nothing," I said. "Just wanted to hear your voice." "That's sweet," she said. "Everything okay?" "Yeah," I said. Everything's fine." We talked for 20 minutes about nothing important. Her work, a film she had seen, plans for our mother's birthday next month. She sounded exactly like herself. Warm, funny, easy. When we hung up, I sat for a long time with the phone in my hand. She had sounded exactly like herself. That was the thing I kept coming back to. Whatever she was carrying, whatever she had been doing for 14 months, it had not changed her voice when she talked to me. She had sounded like my sister, like the person I trusted most. I did not know yet whether that made it better or worse. I think now it made it worse, because it meant she had learned to hold both things at the same time, without either one affecting the other. That takes a kind of practice I do not want to understand. Part 7. The confrontation. I chose a Sunday. Jake and I were having a quiet morning at home, coffee, and the kind of comfortable silence that I had always loved and now found unbearable. When I put down my cup and said his name, he looked up. "How long?" I said. He went very still. "Mia and you," I said. "How long?" I watched the decision move across his face, the split second where he considered denying it, and then the moment he decided not to. "Clara, how long?" I said again. 14 months, he said quietly. I had known. I had already known the number, but hearing it out loud from his mouth was different. It landed differently. It took up more space in the room. "Do you love her?" I asked. He looked at his hands. "I don't know," he said. "I think so. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for any of this." "Don't," I said. "Please don't tell me you didn't mean for it to happen. 14 months is not something that happens to you. 14 months is something you choose. Every single day for 14 months, you chose this." He said nothing, because there was nothing to say. I asked him to leave. He packed a bag and left within the hour. He did not argue. He did not try to fight for me. And somehow that, more than everything else, was the thing that finally made me cry. Part 8. Mia. I called Mia that same evening. She picked up immediately. "I know," I said. "About you and Jake." Silence. Long and heavy and terrible. "Clara," she said. Her voice was different now. The warmth was gone. What was left underneath it was something raw and exposed that I'd never heard from her before. 14 months, I said. My sister. 14 months. "I'm sorry," she said. "I'm so sorry. I never wanted—" "To what?" I said. "To get caught? Because that seems to be the only thing neither of you wanted." "To hurt you," she said. "I never wanted to hurt you." "Then why?" I said. "Just tell me why. Give me something real, not an apology. Why?" A long silence. "I don't have an answer that will make it okay," she said finally. "I know that. There isn't one." "I know there isn't," I said. "I just wanted to hear you try." She didn't try. She cried instead. And I listened to my sister cry on the phone for several minutes and felt nothing except a cold and total distance that frightened me more than the anger had. "Don't call me," I said. "Not for a long time." I hung up, and that was the last time I spoke to Mia for 8 months. Part 9. The apartment. Jake was gone. Mia was gone. And I was alone in the apartment we had built together, with its too small kitchen and its balcony we never used enough and its bedroom window that let in too much light in the morning. I could not leave immediately. The lease was in both our names, and breaking it would cost money I did not have right then. So I stayed. I rearranged the furniture so nothing was where it had been. I moved the bed to the other wall. I took down every photograph. I packed his remaining things into boxes and put them by the door and told him to collect them on a day when I would not be home. Living in that apartment alone was one of the hardest things I have ever done. Not because of the silence. I'm comfortable with silence. But because every room held the shape of what had been there. The couch where we had watched films. The kitchen where Mia had cooked dinner while I worked late. The specific quality of the Sunday morning light that I had loved, and now could not look at without feeling it as a kind of wound. I went through the motions of my life. I went to work. I bought groceries. I answered messages. From the outside, I probably looked like someone who was managing. From the inside, I was somewhere very far away, watching myself go through the days from a great distance. My friend Nora noticed. She appeared at my door one evening with wine and food, and the specific expression of someone who has already decided they are staying regardless of what you say. "You don't have to talk," she said. "I'm just here." I let her in. We sat on the floor because I had moved the furniture and not put it back in any logical arrangement. We drank wine, and she talked, and I listened, and somewhere in the middle of it, I started crying, and did not stop for a very long time. It was the first time I had cried properly since the night I found the message. Everything before that had been too big for tears. This was something smaller and more human, and I needed it badly. Part 10. What grief actually looks like. People who have not been through this kind of loss sometimes imagine it as a single event. A moment of devastation followed by a process of recovery. Linear, manageable, with a clear beginning and a foreseeable end. It is not like that. It is more like weather. Some days are almost normal. You go through your hours without the weight of it landing on you every few minutes, and you think, maybe you're getting somewhere, and then something small happens. A song, a smell, the particular way afternoon light falls across a kitchen table. And you are back at the beginning, not in a dramatic way, but in a quiet, exhausting way that is almost worse. I grieved Jake and I grieved Mia at the same time, and those were two completely different griefs that sometimes got tangled together in ways I could not separate. Grieving Jake was in some ways the simpler of the two. I had loved him, and he had betrayed me, and that was a wound with a clear shape. It hurt in the way that things hurt when they are straightforwardly broken. Grieving Mia was different, more complicated, because she was not just a person I had lost. She was a category of person. She was the place I had gone when things fell apart. And now that she was the thing that had fallen apart, I had nowhere to go with the grief of losing her. I could not call her to talk about losing her. That was the particular cruelty of it. Part 11. My mother. My mother found out 3 months after everything happened. Not from me. I had been carefully not telling her, protecting her from something I knew would hurt her in complicated ways. She found out from a family friend who had heard something somewhere. She called me on a Wednesday evening. I knew from the first word that she already knew. "Clara," she said. "I know," I said. "I was going to tell you." "When?" she said. "When I figured out how," I said. She came to see me that weekend. She sat across from me at the kitchen table. I'd finally put the furniture back. And she looked at me for a long time before she said anything. "How are you?" she asked. "Honestly," I said. "Always," she said. "I don't know who I am without the two of them," I said. "That's the truest thing I can tell you. I built my whole life around Jake and Mia, and now they're both gone and I don't know what's left." My mother reached across the table and took both my hands. "You're left," she said simply. I looked at her. "You were here before both of them," she said. "You will be here after. That has always been true." I did not believe her then, but I held on to the words anyway, the way you hold on to something in the dark even when you cannot see what it is. Part 12. The letter from Mia. 6 months after everything, a letter arrived. Handwritten. Several pages. Mia's handwriting, which I had known my whole life. I held it for 2 days before I opened it. She wrote about our childhood. Specific memories, small and precise. The kind that only someone who was actually there could know. She wrote about the moment she had realized what was happening with Jake and why she had not stopped it. And she wrote about it with an honesty that clearly cost her something real. She did not make excuses. She did not ask for forgiveness. She said she understood if I never wanted to speak to her again, and that she would accept that completely. Near the end, she wrote something that I have read many times since. "I think I was jealous of you for a long time," she wrote. "Not of Jake specifically, of the way you loved. You loved people so completely and so without calculation. I always found that harder than you did. And somewhere along the way, that jealousy turned into something I'm ashamed of. You deserved better from me, you always did." I folded the letter carefully and put it in a drawer. I did not write back, not then, but I did not throw it away. Part 13. Learning to be alone. 8 months after Jake left, I was still in the apartment. The lease had come up for renewal, and I had decided, after a long time thinking about it, to stay. Not because the apartment held good memories, it held complicated ones, but because leaving felt like running. And I had decided I was done running from things. I repainted the walls, a different color entirely, something warm that had nothing to do with how the apartment had looked when it was ours. I bought new plants. I finally started using the balcony, sitting out there in the evenings with tea and a book, and the specific quiet of a city at night. I was learning, slowly and without much grace, how to be alone. Not lonely. Alone. There is a difference that takes time to understand. Lonely is the feeling of missing specific people. Alone is just the neutral fact of your own company. I had spent so much of my adult life moving directly from one close relationship to the next, from family to Jake to the life we built together, that I had never really sat with myself long enough to know what that felt like. It felt uncomfortable at first, then neutral, then gradually something I did not have a word for yet. Something that was not quite peace, but was in the same neighborhood as peace. My therapist, a woman named Dr. Mills, who had a cactus on her desk and a very direct way of asking questions, said something in one of our sessions that stayed with me. "What do you actually want?" she asked. "Not what you wanted with Jake. Not what you wanted before all of this. What do you want now for yourself, going forward?" I opened my mouth. I closed it. I thought about it honestly for probably the first time in months. "I want to be someone I can rely on," I said slowly. "I want to be the person I call when things fall apart. Not because I don't want other people in my life, but because I need to know I'm there for myself first." Dr. Mills looked at me. "That," she said, "is a very good answer." Part 14. Nora. Nora became my closest friend in the months after everything. She had always been in my life, but I had never let her fully in. There had always been Mia in that space, and a person can only hold so many people at the center of their life at once. Without Mia, Nora moved closer. Not because I needed someone to fill the gap. I was trying to learn not to fill gaps. But because she was simply there, consistently and without demand. And I finally had the space to actually see her. She was different from Mia in every important way. Where Mia had been bright and loud and commanding, Nora was quieter. She listened more than she talked. She did not need to be the most interesting person in the room. She was just steadily, reliably present in a way that I had not understood the value of until I needed it most. One evening, she said something that I've thought about many times since. "Can I tell you something I've noticed about you?" she said. "Yes," I said. "You're nicer to yourself than you used to be," she said. "Before all of this, you were always the last person in the room you took care of. Now you're not." I looked at her. "Is that true?" "Yes," she said simply. "It's one of the best things that's come out of the worst thing." I sat with that for a long time. Part 15. Mia again. 8 months after the letter, I called Mia. I had not planned to. I'd been sitting on my balcony one evening, watching the sky go dark, and I had picked up the phone and dialed before I had consciously decided to. She picked up on the first ring, like she had been waiting. Neither of us spoke for a moment. "Hi," I said finally. "Hi," she said. Her voice was careful and very quiet. "I read your letter," I said. "I know," she said. I thought you might have." "I'm not calling to say everything is okay," I said. "Because it's not, and I don't know if it will be. I need you to understand that." "I understand," she said. "But I'm calling," I said. "That's what I have right now, just this call." She was quiet for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was unsteady. "That's enough," she said. That's more than enough." We talked for 30 minutes. Not about what had happened. Neither of us was ready for that. We talked about small things, our mother, a book she had read, the plant I had on my balcony that kept almost dying and then not dying. When we said goodbye, I felt something that I could not entirely name. Not forgiveness exactly, not the return of what we had been. Something smaller and more tentative than that. A door opened a crack, just enough to let a little light through. Part 16. What I know now and what I want you to hear. It has been 14 months since the night I found the message. I am still in the apartment with the repainted walls and the plants and the balcony I finally use. I am still in therapy with Dr. Mills and her cactus. I am still learning, every day, what it means to build a life that belongs entirely to me. I have not spoken to Jake since the day he left. I do not wish him harm. I do not think about him with the intensity I once did. He has become, over time, something at the edge of my story rather than the center of it, which is where he belongs. Mia and I are something. Not what we were. Maybe never what we were again. But something. We speak occasionally, carefully. Like two people learning to walk on ground that is still slightly uncertain beneath their feet. I do not know where it goes. I have stopped needing to know. What I want to tell you, if you are sitting somewhere right now with the weight of something similar, is this. The people who betray you do not get to define you. That is the thing that took me the longest to understand. I spent months feeling like what they had done said something about me, about my judgment, about my worth, about what I deserved. It said nothing about any of those things. It said everything about them. You can love people completely and be completely wrong about them at the same time. That is not a failure of love. That is just the risk of loving at all. The risk is worth it. I still believe that even now, even after all of this. I also want to say this. Losing the person you go to when things fall apart is one of the loneliest experiences a human being can have. When Mia was gone, I did not know where to put my pain because she had always been where my pain went. Learning to hold it myself, to be my own first call, was the hardest and most important thing I have ever done. You're capable of that, I promise you. The capacity was always there. You just may not have needed it until now. My name is Clara. I found a message on his phone at 11 p.m. It was from my sister. I lost them both the same day. And I have been putting myself back together ever since. Slowly, imperfectly, and more honestly than I have ever done anything in my life. If this story reached something in you, Leave a comment. Share it with someone who needs it. And if you're in the middle of your own version of this right now, please hear this one thing above everything else. You are not alone, and you are going to be okay. Not today, maybe, not tomorrow, but eventually in a way that is entirely and only yours. I promise.